Hi, Sandra here from Createinspain. Today I'm going to show you basics of tracing an object in your shortcuts a lot. Here is the trace button at the top. It's the one that looks like a meadow and a skyline. Choose an image, and I've got one that I created in Procreate, so I'm going to open that up. On the settings that I have, it's actually given me a pretty good trace. Now you can show the source image or not, as you wish. Okay. Sometimes it makes it easier to see your cut outlines if you put it right down. You can show the nodes if you really want them, and it tells you the number of nodes. Generally speaking, I don't want to know at the moment. You can zoom in and out, and you can put some kind of edit mode on it, so you can crop the image, which you might want to do if it has a coloured background, or you can draw a mask on it. Personally, I don't do that. I'm using this to do an automated version. Why would I want to draw on it? So we have different modes. We have colour layers, so we could do it by colour. We can just go monochrome, and that's just going to put one outside line. We can use the alpha channel. The alpha channel is basically the background. So if I had a white background to this and I clicked on it, then it would automatically work out where my image was and do a line around it. Despeckling is taking tiny little bits out. And if you have a very involved image, then you might want to do that. High pass filter, I'm never quite sure what that does, and I tend not to use it. I've not found a need to. Now you have smoothing settings that you can apply. It's pretty obvious what that does. The detail, you have high detail or low detail. Single line threshold dictates how many pixels it sees before it says, okay, that's a single line, that's not a double line, that's something that should be single. Again, I don't tend to use it for that. Break apart outlines. If I were doing a trace and I were tracing all the little dots and things like that, I would want to break apart the outlines. Breaking apart the outlines puts each individual traced object onto a layer of its own. Useful if you want to edit it afterwards. Blackout basically means it's going to put a line around the outside of the shape only. Add image layer, which obviously I want to do. Update my preview. I can update the preview if I have changed something. Prompt to continue tracing if I want to do more tracing. Save as SVG. Restore settings, so you can restore the factory settings. Or click OK. So I'm going to click OK, and hopefully that's going to trace my image exactly as it should. Oh, and there it has. Fancy that. Now, one of the things that I do like to do is import PNGs with a transparent background. It makes life so much easier. And although I used the trace function in this, I didn't actually need to. I will show you another way to do that. So if you're doing it as a print and cut trace, when you go over to the layer tab, you will see that there is a path and there is an image. So there's untitled artwork, and then there is a path. And if we go to the preview button, we show cut lines. If I take off the printable, you can see the cut lines on there. All right. So that is a perfectly easy print and cut. If I want to have a little offset around there and I just want to have it expanded, as it were, then I can go to the path, I can go to offset path, and as you can see, I've got an automatic 0.2 centimetre or 2 millimetre offset, which I apply. I could, if I wanted to, go for an interior offset. You might want to do that if you want to use it as an alternative to a print bleed or something of that type. So you could do an inset offset, and you could really dial this down to make it a tiny one so that it definitely didn't have any white around it. Or, as I said, you can just do what is pretty standard for a lot of card makers and things. You want a little white offset around it, and so you do that. or you can cancel it, and it will just cut around exactly where it's supposed to cut. Up to you. So that's that way of doing it. However, if I go to import SVG and I click on this artwork, because it's a PNG with a transparent background, it will do the same thing. And if we click on the preview and I click off the printable, you'll see that it has its line already there, because it's recognized the outline from the PNG, and that works just as well. At the moment, I don't have any registration marks on there. So if I go to my first document page, I can put print margins on here and I can show registration marks. Now my registration marks can be moved, but you'll see here that what it does is it puts registration marks around everything which is on the page. So if you've got more than one thing on the page and you're not printing everything, you want to remove it, and then it will put the registration marks where it should. If you go to the cutter settings, under the settings here, you can choose your registration mark size and whether it goes around the design or whether it goes within the print bounds or whether it goes for the page bounds. But this here is settings that are for the silver bullet. I don't use a silver bullet any longer, but those are the print settings that I have for that. And it will depend on the machine you're using as to what settings you can use. Definitely machine dependent. I use a Brother Scan and Cut. I save my file as an SVG and I then import it into Canvas and then send it to my machine. I cannot control the machine from here. But that's the basics of the print and cut. I'll see you again soon. Take care now.